Good evening, everyone. Do what the will shall be the whole of the law, and welcome once again to our weekly chat here on YouTube, on Twitch, on everywhere. Really, I have been, as I was telling you last week, I am been tempting to stream this on LinkedIn as well, but I'm not sure that I don't know. Maybe one day I'll try. So, how's everybody doing? I hope everybody is enjoying themselves. Uh, I can see that there's so many new channel members. Well, thank you, Corey. Welcome to the membership here. And welcome to William. Good to see you, 93, William. And welcome to Lawrence from the Abyss of Deepest Norfolk. Is there something Lovecraftian over there? I don't know. I hear it's beautiful. I've never been. So hope everybody's doing okay. Here in London, finally today we had a brief glimpse of spring, right? And given that in a few days it's Beltane, we should really hope that there is spring. Beltane is obviously in the wheel of the year. It's seen as the beginning of summer. In fact, if you think of the classic folk horror movie, The Wicker Man, and the song "Summer is a Coming," like that means summer is coming. In Beltane on the 1st of May. Here it's freezing still. So anyway, what can I say? Hello, Thini. I can think of any other way to spend my Venus Day. Well, thank you very much. Glad to you here. So tonight we have something interesting. I think I'm going to discuss about Baphomet. Just to let you know, these themes that I am addressing here on YouTube on our weekly catch ups online. Those are all things that I have discussed already in previous years on when I was actually organizing and running a Patreon. We were meeting pretty much once a week at the height of the lockdown years. We were meeting on Zoom twice, even three times a week, right? And we will used to call them the Rumble Nomicon or the Rumblis Mysteries, to keep up with the Lovecraftian theme. And I covered, I don't know, hundreds of themes. Of course, I'm not an academic, so I always speak from a practitioner point of view. And even tonight, I'm going to introduce a little bit of the history of who Baphomet is, where this name comes from, and then I'd like then to zoom in, sorry, on Baphomet in Thelema, which is of course my own tradition and the one that I know a little bit better than the other. Before doing that, however, some reminders, right? As usual, you can support me, and I would really appreciate if you do. It's this has become my full-time job right now, right? So I'm writing a second book, and I'm going to be very busy doing that because I'm going to focus on more advanced magic, right? Of course, my first book was all about the introduction of how to starting on with magic with the K, what that is, and how you can establish your practice. The book I'm writing now, it deals both with the Thought Tarot and with a more advanced magical formula in Thelema. I will go much deeper in the Star Ruby, much deeper into the Star Sapphire, Liber Reguli, in the Mass of the Phoenix. I will discuss some of the secrets of specific Thelemic orders, right? So I'm not going to name names as much as I can, and yeah. So yeah, I mean, like from now on, it's going to take. I think it's going to take more or less a year for me to get all my ideas, write the book, and have a first draft ready. I will keep these live streams going. I will keep running my classes, my courses, but your support is it's great, right? So if you want to support me, you know how to do it. Like you can do it here on YouTube, or you can now subscribe once again to Magic Without Tears. Like if you want to join on a course, there's also monthly subscriptions where you really can access to the last 3 years of material, and there are hundreds and hundreds of pages written and live streams and everything really. And I will keep adding to it, of course. So yes, then of course, my Magic Without Tears, the course, it's the last live cohort. It's starting in more or less 1 month from now. If you miss this one, that's it. I'm not gonna run it anymore. Of course, the recording will be there. But if you want to have a chance to join the live sessions and ask questions to me directly, interact with the other students in the class as we go together through the 4 months of the course, this is your chance, right? And I'm gonna be very honest with you here. Um, I always thought that asking money for a course like that was like, oh, you shouldn't really do it. It's against the idea of the magician that just does everything for free. And then I noticed at the landscape. I mean, honestly, courses like this sell for 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 pounds or dollars or euros. I think I do a very good deal. Okay, so just gonna be very honest with you tonight. Um, on that note, right? Once again, this is gonna be the last chance for you to run this live with me, and after that, it will be only recorded material. On that note, we finally reached the halfway term of Thought Tarot Magic, and so we went together through 11 path workings from the Fool to Fortune. A lot of material, all extra material has been written, and it's all available. And next week we're going to take a break from the path working, and I'm going to introduce my take on how to read the tarot. And it really is about mixing intuition and a solid foundation of correspondences and understanding of the relationship between the cards. I mean, I would say that is a much better way of really understanding what the tarot say in a reading, as opposed to just sticking to the how do you say, like the spreads, right? Which is a traditional way, or memorizing all the keywords. That's part of it, but I feel that there's so much more to that. Couple more things. At the end of May, in fact, on the 29th of May, which is Monday, here in London, I will run a new class, completely new class. Almost everything you ever wanted to know about sigils, seals, and talismans. This is something in person. So if you find yourself in London, come along to Algis. I think you can already, yes, absolutely, you can already how do you say, you can already order the tickets, like on sale there. I mean, we got tickets events. There's going to be a link in my tab. And there's limited seats for this. As always, every time I do something like LGS is limited. It would be really nice to get to meet you in person if you find yourself in London. Somebody asked me, is this going to be recorded? No, but I will run the same class as part of my Magic Without Tears course. So if you cannot be in London and you want to learn about sigil, seals, and talisman as well, I'm going to add this as well to the last live cohort of the course. Once that's done, it's done. Okay. Final bit of promotion. Sorry, I have to do it. That's every time I do a video and I don't do enough promotion, all my YouTuber friends, which are much better than me, say, "Mark, you should do more." I'm doing more. I mentioned this already last week. This is going to be an online class, and then it is an expanded, revised version of my Understanding Babylon talk, and it's already available to purchase the ticket on the College of Psychic Studies website. And that's about it. I think I covered everything. So let me see the chat before moving on. One second. Okay. Somebody's asking me, will you do a live stream for us to join if we are not in Europe? What is this for? Like, is this for the course? Is this for something else? In general, all the live streams in the course run at this time, right? At 8:30 on Thursday or on Wednesday, depends on the day. And then the video is available immediately afterwards. I will see how many people join us on the course from the United States or maybe even Australia. And if there's a substantial number of people, I might change things around, and maybe 1 week do 8:30, and another week I could do it later, right? So for people in the States to or in Australia to join live. Okay, but please let me know. I'm very open to, nothing is set in stone. Things can be moved around, and I'm more interested in everybody to get the best out of it, right? So, is it time? Is it time to finally go with tonight? Yes, I guess it is. So, Baphomet, right? Who's this guy? I think everybody have seen this picture, and of course, it's by Eliphas Levi, and from his book Dogma et Rituel de la Haute Magie, which is one of those books that if you never read, you really should. And knowing that if you think that Crowley is impenetrable and complicated, wait till you read our friend here, Levi. Levi comes writes in a very different time of history in France at a moment where everything was like there's a lot of political tensions at the time, and Levi's writings are steeped in politics and are steeped in socialism, in fact, believe it or not. So for those of none of you here, I mean, all of you, I guess we pretty much understand each other, at least from that point of view. But in general, for all those occultists that find socialism a little bit disgusting, well, Levi is not for you because the guy was really there. He really believed in a more equitable approach to social issues. Okay, now you surely whenever we hear the voice Baphomet, you see this image in your head, right? Maybe some variations of that, and most of you maybe will think that Baphomet represents the devil, right? I mean, look at him or her or here, them, right? It definitely looks like a devilish figure, and it has been used as the devil in some tarot cards, right? Again and again. The reality is that the story of Baphomet is very complex and goes back to the first reference that we have of this name is from the Middle Ages. And in fact, the term Baphomet was first found in a letter of July 1098 about the siege of Antioch by the French crusader Anselm de Ribemont. Okay, and I'm gonna read the letter for you. Do you want it in Latin first? I'm gonna read it in Latin because I guess a lot of people might not know what Latin sounds like, and that is like this: Sequenti die aurora apparente, altis vocibus Baphomet invocaverunt, et nos Deum nostrum in cordibus nostris deprecantes, impetum facientes in eos, demuris civitatis omnes expultimus. Now, translated, as the next day dawned, they, that is the inhabitants of Antioch, called loudly upon Baphomet, and we prayed silently in our hearts to God, and then we attacked and forced all of them outside the city walls. So what is happening here? We are in the uh, you know all right. Can you hear me now? Yes, I guess you can. All right. Sound. Can you hear me now? Yes, I guess, yeah. Good. Can you hear me now? Hello? Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes, no, maybe? It's definitely working here. Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay, okay, it's back. Fantastic. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened here. Maybe Baphomet is where we were left. So okay, um, imagine that you go to a Muslim country, right? So what do you hear in the morning, right as the sun comes up? You usually hear the cry of the muezzin that calls the faithful, the Muslims, to prayer, right? So when when the Crusaders, when Ensemble of Ribon heard the call of Baphomet in the morning before they attacked the city, what it could really mean is that he was hearing the muezzin calling to prayer and naming Mahomet, Muhammad. Okay, historically, this is what is accepted to be the origin of Baphomet. Baphomet is a linguistic interpolation of the term Mahomet or Muhammad. Okay. Now, this is what is accepted nowadays. Consider that it went through a lot of debate over the centuries, right? And maybe we will discuss this a little bit with how the debate went for. But I would say that this is, I mean, at least for me, this is the most likely truth behind it. It's also because a lot of the symbolism of the magical symbolism that is now attributed to Baphomet is tied to Templars, and it's tied to the Templar myth. This means that when the Templars were finally disbanded in the 1300s by the Pope and the King of France, mostly because they just got too powerful, and they were threatening the sovereignty of both the Vatican State, the Papal State, and the Kingdom of France. When all the Templars were rounded up and tortured, a lot of them confessed under torture, which is always like, if you're being tortured brutally, you would confess to everything, right? But they confessed that they did commit apostasy, which was what they were accused of, and they started to started to pray to this god, this entity that they found in Holy Land. Okay, now what is very possible here is that because a lot of critics and a lot of scholars over here made the valid point that since we have so many of these confessions, yes, of course, torture was playing a part, but the reality that possibly at least some sort of truth was there. And one of the most possible truth behind it is that Templars were trained to pretend they would commit apostasy if they were captured by the Saracens, by the Muslims, right? So possibly, when we hear in the Templars confessions that they spit on the cross, they trampled the cross, they called upon Baphomet. Possibly, they did do these things as part of their training to endure torture from the Muslims. I don't know if I'm making the point, but the reality here is that it's very possible that there was never there a mysterious goat-headed god that was worshipped by some groups of Muslims in Outre-mer, in the Holy Land. Possibly it's a commixtion of things, and possibly Baphomet really means Muhammad originally. Now, that is not to say that there is not an egregore, a thought form. I would not call it like a god, because I do think there is a difference in magnitude there, but it's definitely possible that nowadays there is an entity, an egregore called Baphomet, which is exactly like Eliphas Levi has depicted it, like literally this guy here, which is this guy, girl, whatever this is, right? Now, when we're now leaving the Templars behind and we're catapulting ourselves many centuries ahead, and we're finally meeting. Well, so now it's like the 1800s, and Eliphas Levi takes this idea once again and makes it his, and is the one who actually drew this very famous picture. Why did he do that? Because again, remember that at the time he was, as I said at the beginning, working and writing and operating in a very political active France, a very political active France, which was also the was very where Freemasonry and Templar Freemasonry is was very popular and was used as a way of enacting change from a social perspective. Remember, this is the same time where in Italy we had La Carboneria, which was a movement similar to Freemasonry that literally was used as a vehicle for enacting the unification of Italy. You might have heard the name Giuseppe Garibaldi. Giuseppe Garibaldi is a very famous Italian historical figure. And he was also a Freemason, right? A very famous Freemason. In fact, it was so famous, it was like the grandmaster of the rite of Memphis and Mizraim, which is the most mystical, magical rite that there is, okay? The Egyptian rite called. Imagine the same sort of milieu happening in France as well. And this is where Eliphas Levi was acting, writing, operating. And so he thought, what can I use as a super powerful icon that draws onto Freemasonry, that draws onto the Templar myth, but also represents something else? And what it does represent is the union of the opposites, right? The alchemical realization of the rebis, the one thing that happens at the end of the alchemical process. The rebis is in Latin is coincidentio oppositorum, the concordance of the opposite things. And here we have the concordance of the opposite thing, because we have the man and the woman, right? We have the breast of a woman on the body of a man. Then we have the human and the beast. We have the beast of the land and the beast of the air. We have also a hint of, we can also see, the embodied and the divine, like the torch that you see on the head, right? So all these polarities come into play into this image and represent a union, a perfect union of all these things, okay? So this is the truth behind Baphomet, okay? It's not the devil, right? Albeit I see somebody in the chat says that he's definitely a mask for Beelzebub or Eshuma Yora right now. I do believe that, or I believe, there's plenty of evidence. It's not about what I believe. There's plenty of evidence right there that egregores, thought forms, change as they engage with humanity, right? It's very possible that, we create them, but then they change as they engage back with us, okay? And so it's definitely possible that when this image traveled from Europe to Cuba, to Haiti, to Santo Domingo, to Brazil, it changed again, right? And it became something different. This is the beauty of and the complexity of the African diaspora religions, right? Lukumi, Regla de Ocha, you have Voodoo, of course, Candomblé, Umbanda, Quimbanda, etc., etc. It's a completely different world of syncretism, which I would suggest that if any of you have never looked into it, first of all, do it with respect, because those are initiatory religions. Like, you cannot just decide to be a Voodoo sant. You cannot just decide to to pick up a practice with a law or an orisha. Maybe will be different for some. In general, it is an initiatic practice whereby you have to go become part of a community, be recognized by the community, and then eventually being given proper initiation. But when I say look into that, because it's so interesting, we as Europeans, we tend to see things in like the famous neat little boxes that I speak about many times. It's so much more, liminal over there. And that's what magic really is. Let go of the idea of boxes, right? Which again, if you come from from a Golden Dome background, from a Thelemic background as well, we like our boxes. Um, I think it would be a good idea to start leaving them behind. Okay. Now, of course, I'm a little bit rambling here, as I always do, but I guess we are. I guess I'm making the point, right? Baphomet wasn't the first androgen genander, right? If we look at the history of alchemy in Heinrich Kunrad Amphitheatrum Sapientiae Aeterna, we have images of complex creatures, right? As you can see here, you have a man with two heads, and then there's a peacock on top, and the peacock always represents a moment of the alchemical process whereby we are we are reaching the final stages. And again, you have this union of the highest and the lowest, of the male and the female. So it's nothing new, right? It's something that was done before, but it was Levi that used that precise image and that name Baphomet, bringing it back to the Templar sources that were available, because the Templarism and Templar Freemasonry was something that was so popular at the time and was so connected with the socio-political changes that were happening in France, in Italy, across Europe in those years. Okay, there are, like I said, while modern scholars and also the Oxford Dictionary really stated the name of the origin of the name of Baphomet is exactly Mohammed, as I told you, there are many other possible etymologies. Um, just like showing you a little bit. For instance, this is classic. Let me start La Franc-Maçonnerie by Léo Taxil. I should make a one on this specific topic. Léo Taxil and the Templar and Masonic hoaxes of the late 1800s. Anyway, other possible etymologies. Um, it could come, it could be like a coded term of Basileus Philosophorum Metallicorum, which is the sovereign of the metallurgical philosophers. And again, um, going back to the alchemy allegory, which of course he Baphomet represents very well. Yet another one could be seen as, other people say that actually it comes from Baphometis, which is Greek for the baptism of wisdom, which is a term that's again it's found in alchemy, and represent the union with understanding, with Bina, with the supernals on the tree of life, if you want to think about that. Another one, again, it can be seen. Let me see here. Basically, if you use a very specific substitution cipher connected to Gematria called Atbash, the name Baphomet then becomes Sophia, that is the divine wisdom again. I really, why all these ideas that have been circulating since the 1800s, since Levi put this figure and this name together at the forefront of esoterica, if you want. I really think that the reality it's Mohammed, right? that's at least where it comes from. Okay, now where does it go? By the way, I've seen that somebody was asking in the chat about the connection between Levi and socialism. There's a lot there, right? Believe it or not, if you Google, well, if you go on the Wikipedia page of Baphomet, which I helped write, there's some synthesis that you might find interesting. Okay, I don't think we have to go into that right now, but our friend Levi was definitely very much into socialism. Let's put it like that. Now, it's also true that this Baphomet has also been called the goat of Mendes, right? And by the name of the goat of Mendes, I mean, Levi himself equates the image with the image of the goat of Mendes. And by virtue of this equation, a lot of people have thought of it as a satanic image, right? Of course, this is the Bubulas satanic temple statue that has been making the rounds of the news since 2015. I would like to state that I have no ties with the Satanic Temple, and I don't like them too much either. But this was a good prank. Let's put it like that. Now, the god of Mendes, it's interesting because Mendes is the Greek name of an ancient Egyptian city called Jedet. And if you read Herodotus, this was a cult city for a Pan-like deity. Okay, so this is why this is interesting, because when we finally come to Thelema, which we're finally here, the connection between Baphomet, the god of Mendes, and Pan is very important, right? Because Pan is not a deity in Thelema. Pan is a state of realization. Okay, it's a state of realization that you aspire as you cross the abyss. And if you're curious about crossing the abyss, watch the live stream from last week, because I think we discussed a little bit what that means and what it is. Now, the point is that Crowley was very into reading Levi. Crowley thought Levi was his previous incarnation, right? So for Crowley, Levi was a fundamental source, and Pan was an important figure for Crowley, and Freemasonry was an important inspiration for Crowley. So all these things coalesced together into creating the Baphomet of Thelema. Now, let me just okay, we have here, we get here to let's use the Baphomet on my book, which is by Ukrainian artist Serhiy Yakovlev. I'm terrible, sorry about that, Serhiy. Baphomet appears very predominantly in Thelema in the Gnostic Mass. Okay, and the Gnostic Mass is the public representation, allegory of the mysteries of Ordo Templi Orientis. The Ordo Templi Orientis, it's not just the most famous Thelemic organization that there is, but you can think of it as Thelemic Freemasonry, okay? And a Thelemic Freemasonry of a specific kind, because in its highest degree, the 7th, the 9th, and the 8th, and the 9th, and the 11th, it teaches, or supposedly teaches, sexual alchemy. Okay, so the idea of the bringing together of the oppositions and the annihilation of the opposition is something that becomes very important in the OTO. The Gnostic Mass is kind of like, you can think of it as a recruitment drive of the OTO, and Crowley thought of it as a way of putting in plain sight everything that the OTO had to offer, but under allegories, symbology, and coded rituals. Okay, in the creed of the Gnostic Mass, many things happen, and then one phrase is that, "And I believe in the serpent and the lion, mystery of mystery, in his name, Baphomet." Crowley, in Magic, in Theory and Practice, also states that Baphomet is the divine androgen, okay, and the hieroglyph of arcane perfection. And basically, he says that because looking at the glyph of Baphomet, we can see the Hermetic principle of as above, so below. What occurs above occurs below. So there's an idea of sympathy between the two things, but also attention towards annihilation, so that the two can become one, can become zero. Okay. Famously, there's also one in Liber ABA, Magic in Theory and Practice. He also says this, because of course already at the time a lot of people were saying that possibly this was just the devil. Crowley says that the devil does not exist. It is a false name invented by the Black Brothers, and that Black Brothers imply, it has nothing to do with race, implies those who do not give their life in service to Babylon and to the highest. Invented by the Black Brothers to imply a unity in their ignorant muddle of dispersions. A devil who had a new unity would be a god. The devil is historically the god of the people that one personally dislikes. This serpent, Satan, is not the enemy of man, but he who made gods of our race, knowing good and evil. He bade know thyself and thought initiation. He is the devil of the Book of Thought, and his emblem is Baphomet, the androgen who is a hieroglyph of arcane perfection. He is therefore life and love, but moreover, his letter is Ayin, the eye, so that he is light, and his zodiacal image is Capricornus, the leaping goat whose attribute is liberty. Light, life, love, and liberty are four pillars of Thelema. And by the way, thank you, Jessica. If you're curious about the creed, on my website, Ecclesia Gnostica Universalis, there's an examination by Tao Piran. It's fantastic. It goes into super detail, so you can understand what Thelema is really about and why we use these symbols, right? Now, if you just heard what I said, like that little quote from Crowley, you would have noticed that first he tries to make the point that this is not Satan, and then he says that the serpent taught initiation. This is the classic approach of Crowley mocking his critics, which, as you all know, it didn't do us in Thelema any good, because 120 years later we get Satanic Panic 2.0, etc., etc., etc. The point is that there is no Satan for Thelemites, right? There is a tendency to initiation and a tendency to gnosis, and possibly this gnosis flies in the face of those who think that humanity should be in thrall of a God we should fear. Whereby for Thelema, we are divine. We only have to get there, get back there. Okay. Crowley also says that Baphomet is a representative of the spiritual nature of the spermatozoa. Okay, so there's a lot of sensual imagery in this, a lot of reproductive ideas in this. Okay, while also being symbolic of the magical child produced as a result of the sex magic, and the creation of the magical child, the homunculus, is one of the goals of the secrets of the OTO, the high degree secrets of the OTO, especially the 9-degree secret, okay, which is generative sex magic. Not just that, you can do other things with it, but ideally you want to use that particular sexual alchemy to generate a magical child, which can be a proper child, right? As such, Baphomet represents, as I said before, the union of opposites, especially as mystically personified in chaos and Babylon, combined, and so biologically manifest with the sperms and the egg united in the zygote. Now, Crowley here, finally, also proposed another etymology for Baphomet, which is interesting. I'm going to read it for you. Crowley proposed that Baphomet was derived from Father Mithras, or Matras. In his Confessions, he described the circumstances that led to this etymology. I had taken the name Baphomet as my motto in the OTO. For 6 years and more, I tried to discover the proper way to spell this name. I knew that it must have 8 letters. And for those of you who might have listened to this and a member of OTO, you might have seen that 8 somewhere. And of course, 8 is mercurial, right? It's Mercury, Hod. And Mercury, Hod, go back to the idea of the seed, of the sperm, right? It goes on a little bit. Anyway, it just goes in a little bit of Kabolox, as I like to say from time to time, but he ends up going to the point that Baphomet can be translated in various ways into Father Mithras, and Matras and Abraxas are also two figures, to deity, to egregores that appear in the Gnostic Mass and appear as two approaches to sex magic, okay? And one should master both in order to create our concordatio oppositorum that we find in Baphomet. And that's about it. I mean, like I said, I'm not an academic. This is a very introductory idea of what Baphomet is. Is it the devil? No, it's not. Is it a very misunderstood figure? Absolutely, no doubt. Did I put it on my book? Also, yes, because in all its booby glory, because why not, right? Let me see if there's anything in the question. Okay, let me just go back to this one. One second. Yes, there's a okay. This is. Do you know what Hammer-Purgstall thought the etymology was? Joseph von Hammer-Purgstall was a scholar that operated between the late 1700s, and he died in the mid 1850s. I don't remember exactly when. And I guess he is the one that we get the Baphometist ideas from, Baptist of wisdom. Okay, so I think that's who we have to thank for that etymology. And I think I'm right, actually. I mean, yeah, that's it. Absolutely. Okay. Can we think of Baphomet as an image of the drive in Freudian sense, insofar it is life, which leads to annihilation? I think yes, we can. I would say also that possibly it's more, the drive, as you say in Freudian sense, the life drive is maybe more found in the abraxas and metras part of the equation, and then the annihilation or the conjunction happens in Baphomet. But yes, you can think of it, and yes, I can see annihilation not in a negative sense, but becoming no one. I remember that Baphomet is not no one. Baphomet is the union of the opposites, right? No one is happens after Baphomet. Okay, so in many ways, in Baphomet, we're still in the life drive. Okay, we're still in the life drive that has gone past the first momentum, and has realized the union of the opposite. But after the union of the opposite, full annihilation when the opposite disappears into themselves. Okay, and that's possibly what we find in the next step. Okay. All right. Let me just. There we are. William is saying, to me, I always equate Baphomet as my balance. That's a good way of putting it, right? It does represent balance. It represents the most perfect balance, in fact. Because inside Baphomet, there is all the opposition that comes together, all of it, right? So in many ways, yeah, you can see it like that. As usual, my neighbors upstairs are, I don't know what they're doing. If one day I'm on one of these live stream and you see something like collapsing onto me, those are the neighbors upstairs. Okay. Thank you very much. As I'm very happy to answer any questions you might have, and like I said many times, if I don't know anything about it, I will tell you, and always with the caveat that I do not present academic information. You can go to the fantastic YouTube channels of my friends Angela Puca, Dr. Angela Puca, Dr. Justin Sledge. They are, if you want amazing scholarly and academic perspective on these topics, they are the people to go for, right? I give you my my initiate, practitioner kind of approach to these things and to these topics. Yes, absolutely. You can draw comparisons to a lot of concepts in Hinduism. Remember always that Crowley was trying to create a mixture of Eastern and Western practice. Magic with the K really is two things, is these two different approaches try to be fused together with a slightly more I don't know, postmodernist vibe. I don't know if that's the correct term, but if you see, every time you see something in Thelema that sounds and smells and feels like it could be similar to some Eastern ideas, you might be right. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Eshuma Yoral is I didn't know that, for instance, right? Could it be that when Baphomet becomes syncretized with with the other egregores that are found in Kimbanda and becomes Eshuma Yoral, he retains some of this balancing impetus behind him, possibly, right? But like I said, this is definitely not my. I mean, I read a little bit of it. As I said many times, I studied with Michael Berthiaud, something that's Berthiaud's take on these practices, which is not the original ones, but quite possibly, right? Okay. Do we have any other questions? I'm gonna have a sip of. If you have any other questions, we can actually. Let me see. Let me see. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, Baphomet is good. I mean, it's one of the. I mean, I love him. Him, hit, whatever they are. I love them, right? And I would say that. I mean, maybe I can give you a little suggestion here, right? It's definitely fine if you want to try and work with Baphomet the same way you might want to work with other spirits, but when it comes to Baphomet, when it comes to the Pan of Thelema, when it comes to Babylon, when it comes to Therion, when it comes to these names that we find in Thelema, in my experience, these are these are really different than gods and goddesses and genius loci and spirit that you can call and transact or interact with, as you can do, with the spirit of the Goetia, the spirit of the Arbatel, the spirit of the Book of Oberon, or the pantheons of gods and goddesses of various cultures. There's an element of, there's almost like there's no personality in there, because they're more like raw forces, they're more like processes than gods and goddesses. At least this is the way that I always interacted with these ideas, right? And again, goes back to the idea that in Thelema there's no god but man, which doesn't mean there's no god. It means that man as in mankind has inside them the tendency to go back to the source directly, okay, as opposed of working with intermediates. And then of course, as anybody who ever done magic, that you have to work with intermediates because you're not that good at the beginning, and possibly you'll never be that good, but at least this is the impetus behind Thelema. All right. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. Final reminder that if you want to be part of Magic Without Tears, this is your time, like now or never, right? Um, we're gonna start in more or less a month. I will keep reminding you all till we start, and I hope we'll see you, some of you, in class. And for the rest, well, it's been nice to spend another evening with you all. Thank you for being so kind. Remember that if you want to support me, you know how to do it. I would really appreciate that, especially since as I start working on my second book. So that's it for tonight. Do what the will shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love and the will.